project, I will be doing synthesis and decomposition reactions. These are two pretty easy topics to understand. A synthesis reaction is a combination of multiple reactants to create one product, one new compound. And these reactions are exothermic, which means that they will give off heat or light or energy due to the reaction. A decomposition reaction is actually the polar opposite. It is when you take a compound and break it down to multiple reactants or atoms or molecules, and this can be seen as AB breaking down into A and B. This is when you could take, like we'll do in the experiment later, we'll have hydrogen peroxide and we'll be breaking it down into oxygen and water. In this synthesis experiment, I will be rusting a horseshoe. And rust normally naturally occurs through exposing iron to oxygen. And it's actually a synthesis reaction, even though people think it might be decomposition because decomposing. It's a synthesis reaction because it's adding two elements or two atoms and molecules together and creating a new compound. So here I'll be adding white vinegar, salt, and hydrogen peroxide together. And this is to speed up the process because there's a chemical reaction that goes on when this is connected to the iron or sprayed on the iron and then released into oxygen. That will speed up the rusting process so we are able to see what happens. And this is the same thing. This is synthesis because it's a bunch of different molecules and atoms combining together to create a new compound. This is an experiment on decomposition. So decomposition, as said before, is taking a compound and breaking it up back into atoms and molecules, basically simplifying it back to its normal state. So here we're going to work with hydrogen peroxide, yeast in this bag. So we're going to put the hydrogen peroxide and yeast together, and there's an enzyme in yeast that makes hydrogen peroxide react to it. And this is a chemical reaction because when this reaction happens, you're going to feel on the bottom that it gets a little bit hot. And this chemical reaction happens because of the breaking down and rebuilding of the chemical bonds. Because when we mix these two together, you'll see that this bag's going to expand because the oxygen's coming out, and you'll see water on the bottom because it breaks it back up into both water and oxygen. You see an instant reaction here. You see the oxygen has come to the top, and the original compound has now split into its original atoms and molecules, which are oxygen and water.